Hello and welcome to Check Out This, guys, where today I'm going to be starting some shipping discourse with myself because I am going to tell you all about how I make my OCs date, even though I would never be caught dead on an actual date. Hi, my name is Quatre and my pronouns are they, he, she.
My name's Morg. My pronouns are they, he, and I'm gonna probably talk less about shipping and more about just like old characters I've made, but I wanted to, but yeah, we're talking about OCs in your favorite media today.
Hi, I'm Izzy. You can call me she or he, and I'm out here lost in the woods and I don't know what's going on. So this will be interesting.
Yeah, before we started recording, Izzy was like, I had no desire to make a character from existing media. And Quatre and I were like, what? Because
like, how do you start? How do you start if it's not from an existing media?
You gotta create the world. Do you want to know part of the reason why?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this actually ties in to chat that we've had on the Discord. Hey, go check out that Discord. About like copyright and ownership and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If you make like a fan work, technically that's a derivative work that the original copyright owner has control and ownership of. So that is part of the reason why I've never wanted to put any of that creative effort into something that would not be either mine or not fully mine in a way that matters to me.
Interesting,
especially since I'm the known character stealer of the podcast. And I just look at canon media and I'm like, you know what? Immortal Instruments, or whatever it's called, does not deserve Alec Lightwood, so he's mine now. He no longer interacts with his canon media. He just exists in my head, completely separate from the story.
Yeah. And my experience with character creation probably started with like media I liked originally because it's like a jumping off point, right? Like it's at least for me, like I didn't have to like narrow down a world because there was already a world to put my little guy into, right? And derivative, that's always an interesting thing because I'm not trying to make money off of the character anyway, so it was always more for like my own pleasure, right? Like making just like, wow, I wanted to put myself into fucking, well, the example I was going to talk about, or one of them was going to be, I made like an old fanfic with a Pokemon character as the lead that was just like made by me.
So let me just say real quick, a derivative is the word that the law uses.
Yeah, I know.
And, common misconception that a lot of people have is it matters whether or not you're trying to make money, and it absolutely doesn't.
Oh. I feel like a lot of creators don't care.
Yeah. If you make a creative work, you legally have control over it. And that's a whole mess. And like I said, just also I like the world building stuff.
Which is so valid.
Actually, some interesting stuff with that, like with like fanfic and famously like Anne Rice was like not happy about fanfic being made about her books.
Yeah.
And
I remember the early days.
And tried to put a stop to it, but that didn't work as far as... It didn't work as well as she hoped, I think. There's a lot of like gray area there. And I think that stuff's kind of like interesting to work in the gray area. And like it is different. Like I like world building a lot, but you know, when I was 13, I was barely making good characters. Can you imagine the world? Like, it was kind of like, I didn't have any place to jump off of. I also wanted to, like, before we kind of really dug into it, I wanted to, like, just because I was reminded of this term, Chesh from the Discord, and I had talked about this before, but technically, we're talking about FCs and not OCs today because original character is OC, FC is fan character, and most people just use OC for both because it's easier and like you're gonna see like if you type on Archive of Our Own, you're gonna see character X OC, and that's fine. Someone made an original character, but it's the reason it was like fan character is because it's a character based on existing fandoms, you know? So you're a fan of Pokemon, so you made a character you're a fan of. Like, you're like, this is a fan of the series, you made a fan character. And OC is like, oh, it's not based on anything. And the line is blurred, as we've shown, obviously, but I just wanted to be like, you know, in the past... the term would have been FC. Most of the time, it's kind of grouped all together as OC now. So we'll probably keep saying OC, but I just wanted to be like, there's like fandom past, and it's very.
Yeah, fandom past is so interesting. Actually,
it's like interesting and kind of weird.
Oh, now I want to go on a tangent and just talk to you guys about fandom history and about the different ways that authors have responded to fan fiction existing of their series and what kind of series get fan fiction or just fandoms in general, while others just sort of only exist in the canon.
Yeah.
It's an interesting thing to think about. I am an avid fan fiction reader. Dear listener, I spend at least an hour a day on Archive of Our Own. If not more. It depends on how early I say I go to bed and how long it takes for me to fall asleep.
Oh.
Yeah. It's definitely something that, like, I've done, I've experienced. I have had waves of being a fanfic reader. Usually it's also when I'm in bed, ready to go to sleep and staying up too late. I don't know if that's just the vibe. You're like, oh, we have a phone now.
It's a bedtime story.
It's a bedtime story. So true.
Something nice before you fall asleep, I say while clicking on Hurt No Comfort.
I assume that's self-explanatory. Do y'all want to get real mad at me?
Okay.
I'm going to try and get mad at you, but I don't know if I'm capable of it.
In my entire life, I have only read a fan fiction once.
Okay.
I think you've read more fan fiction than you know.
That's kind of surprising. I mean, it's not that surprising, but like, I also know like you've been on We Rate Queerbait, and Star Trek specifically has like a ton of fanfic.
Yes, but I've never read any.
A lot of the classics would technically be considered fan fiction, and when I say classics, I mean like English name. No, you also say La Divina Commedia. What is in Italian? The Divine Comedy.
Oh yeah, that's Bible fanfic.
That's technically a fanfic. So I think it also depends. Like sometimes you read a story and you don't actually know it's a fanfic because
I've never read the Divine Comedy. I've never read the Divine Comedy.
I'm sorry, I read a lot. I am sorry for assuming that everyone has at least read a passage.
I've read Inferno.
I definitely didn't read it completely. But I mean, like, if you've read something that is based on, like, Greek mythology or watched something that was based on a famous story from before, then technically that could be considered a fan fiction. And since most modern media has no original ideas, House was a fan fiction of Sherlock, so.
True. Yeah. I guess.
Yeah, I think sometimes people say fan fiction a bit too much for people who write things and aren't paid for it. But I think, I personally feel like we should acknowledge that some grown people do get paid for the fan fiction that they're making.
Oh, okay, so you mentioned Sherlock. Can
there is parts of Sherlock that like can't be used, like
correct.
There's like Sherlock can't be nice in certain things unless they name him like Sherlock Sholmes, and even then it's pretty like touchy.
And that's the thing I want to talk about. Actually, is I love the throughput of you had the Lupin novels or Lupin stories. Which that's where Sherlock Sholmes comes from, because they did not have the rights to use the characters, so they swapped the two letters.
Which is honestly big brain move.
And then from that, Lupin the Third.
Yeah. That's funny though.
I love that through line of just taking a bit, but that's not setting it in someone else's universe.
No, it's not stealing. It's taking something and putting it in your own universe.
Yeah, and so for me, when I use the term fanfic, I am talking about like taking someone else's universe and ideas and like making a story of your own about it. Just so that I guess we have some clarity, because we may be talking about different things.
I know I use fanfic as a really broad term, but mostly because it pisses me off that people look down on it sometimes.
Yeah. Oh, it's not that I look down on it. It's just...
No, I wasn't talking about you. I just meant in general. That's why I use it so broadly.
Yeah, it's just, there's so many different stories that I want to read or watch or whatever that there's already a list that I'll never get to, so why add to it with something of questionable quality?
Because you're like, I only want to read something that's like 1,500 words. I only want to read something that's 10,000 words or less. I can't do this all the time with books. I can sometimes find short story collections, but sometimes I'm like, what if I just do this on Archive of Our Own instead? That's my thing.
I have been reading the same genre of scum villain fic for the past 2 months.
Oh my god!
I'm having the time of my life.
Yeah,
good for
mine's
you.
Just mostly like
I've lowered my standards a lot. Now I'm hitting the really questionable quality ones.
Oh no!
And it might be time to move on to a new one, but I haven't figured out what I want to read.
Unless you want to write your own, since you do have some scum villainy
I've tried
ideas.
writing it. Once upon a time, I've written several fanfics in my life, but once upon a time as an adult, I wrote a fanfic, and my friend was like, "I'll proofread it," and I was like, "Okay," and I sent her the fic, and then she never talked about it. I was like, "Oh no, how bad was it?" So we're never repeating that experience ever.
Oh. That's so funny.
Yeah, it was mostly embarrassing for me.
I mean, it's not funny. It's really, that sucks, but it's like...
It did suck.
It's more like...
But I have fun with my stories even without sharing them. Like, for every single book or series that I watch or read, I make up a universe in my head and I put some version of me in that universe, and that I'm having a great time in the Scum Villain universe right now. Actually, that's not true. I would not survive there. I would die. But, you know.
At least you know your limits.
Yeah, I've become a student of, like, the notoriously single character that did not get his boyfriend.
Yeah.
And in my head, I mock him a lot, and then eventually he will kill me, probably. Yeah.
You mock him. So is this not the same character as you were talking about that wants to date him?
Oh, no, yeah, right. Before we started recording, the reason why I said shipping is because I like to make myself insert sort of date a character in the universe. I say sort of because I have never dated in my life. I don't know what dating is like. But like most people, I love the idea of having a really deep and meaningful connection with someone. So the one I gave as an example was my Grandmasters of Demonic Cultivation self-insert. I don't want to say dates Jiang Cheng because that sounds horrible. Who would willingly date that man? But yeah, I basically sort of have us involved in a platonic way. But it's not very good because I mock this man constantly. This is a theme in all my self-inserts, where I try to make him better by being worse, if that makes sense. Because I want some drama, okay? Relationships is where most of the drama in the series that I grew up with came from, so that's the only way I know how to create drama. So in this self-insert, my self-insert is, of course, a demonic cultivator. Everybody that knows this story knows that Jiang Cheng hates those. So I've got my work cut out for me to make it believable that we date. So in my head, it's because he hates his brother so much that he's like, I'm going to date another demonic cultivator to prove that I hate my brother for who he is and not for being a demonic cultivator.
Did you do a self-insert enemies to lovers?
All my self-inserts are enemies to lovers.
That's my secret, Cat.
My Genshin self-insert gets with Kaya because Kaya is super suspicious of me and constantly hangs out with me. And obviously, if someone is constantly hanging out with me, they should fall in love with me, right? This is how I interact with media. This is how my OCs are born.
To a certain extent, I guess all my characters that have any depth to them are on some level a self-insert. So I guess the question is, what does that mean for the pair that's a couple?
You love yourself. And that's great.
No.
Unless it's like the way I make my relationships. In that case, please seek help. Because I think if I ever told my therapist
oh my god,
my self-inserts and the relationships I put them through, I would have to explain to her that sometimes you write fan stories or write weird media, not because you want it to happen in real life, but because you want to explore some ideas without feeling guilty for them in any shape, way, or form. Right?
Yeah, honestly, I feel like a lot of therapists would like understand that because they'd be like, well, yeah, this is a way like safer version than like you getting into a bad relationship. You know, like that
I would not be capable of doing that anyway.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. Like a lot of they'd be like, oh, cool. That means you're getting out like whatever like thoughts you have, and like that's fine. And you get to like have fun in the process. Great. But not that I'm a therapist, but you know, I feel like a lot of them would be like, yeah, cool, whatever.
I'm very witty. I would say I'm funnier than the original stories, but that's because it's in my head and I have like months to think of good remarks.
So true. Yeah, and I'm not like, it's funny because like I talked about like pre-recording. I haven't done a lot of like self-insert type stuff as much in a long time, like in media. I mentioned the Pokemon character. I mentioned one time I was like, what if in Paper Mario there was another Paper Mario game and it was Paper Maria and you're I don't know, Mario and Peach's kid or whatever, and you get to travel with Bowser Jr., who's older now. He's one of the partners, and you're just saving Kingdom. You know, like, it's kind of like, okay, great. You made a kid with a very similar name to their father. Good job. But
no, this is how they do it. This is how a lot of names are made.
Yeah, that's true. That's very fair. But it's just like funny.
It's better than all my OCs originally being called Elvire and then having to change their name later.
Does she die gunned down on a space station?
No.
Why would that happen?
No.
What am I missing?
It's a reference.
She's not.
It's a reference to Sonic Adventure 2.
Yeah, I was like, no, she's not Maria. She's not that Maria.
Maria?
The first Sonic crossover, Sonic Mario crossover.
I mean, there are like official ones of those.
No, I know. I was saying first, like before the Sonic and Olympic, the Sonic Mario Olympic Games. But you're right. But there's also, I was trying to think about this, and instead nowadays I do this thing where like I listen to like a podcast I really like. And they talk about, I don't know if I've talked about it on this one. I think maybe I have on Sonic Shuffle, but like I like this one called 3 Books, 1 Plot, and it's the character, oh my god, the hosts talk about Twilight, because there's 3 versions of it, because there's Edward's perspective, the gender swapped, I'm putting huge air quotes, gender swapped version, and then regular Twilight. And then I was like, what if there was a non-binary version? And they were in a band. What if Bella, non-binary version, was in a band and was healthy and was an adult and like didn't and ran into vampires later in life? So I do stuff like that where I'm like just speculating, like, damn, what if character was not the same character at all, but still had to deal with vampires? Like,
would you say you're ship of Theseusing your story until it's completely original?
Yeah, absolutely. That's 100% what happened. And it was just like, because they kept talking about it, and they kept talking about how a lot of their guests that they brought on were like people they met through emo night, and I was like, what if non-binary Bella was an emo musician? And then I was like, what the fuck is happening?
No, I'm super interested. This should keep going.
And that
I thought you were going to say earlier that you wrote self-insert fic for a podcast.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to quickly get through that, because that sounds terrible. Because I almost was like, oh my god, if I start talking about this, it's gonna sound like I fucking inserted myself into like my brother and me or something. Like, I don't know.
Oh, hey, if anyone has ever done a self-insert, check out this guy. Please let me know about it. That sounds like the most fucked up and hilarious thing.
God. I mean, I'm sure people make shit like that because people make fanfics about, like, that kind of stuff. Like, you're like, oh, these two...
I am convinced if I open my brother and me on Archive and go to
don't do it,
the Your Name one, there's gonna be one.
I know there is for like YouTubers and shit. Like I've like seen those. So
definitely.
So I'm like, there's obviously got to be some for like big podcasts too. Like I'm sure like Critical Role or whatever. Like people are like, I ship these people.
No, Critical Role is too easy because that's an actual universe story. My brother and me is like.
No, I'm talking about the people, like not the characters. People be shipping the Critical Role characters. I mean, like Matthew Mercer.
But that's real people fiction. That's something else. As entirely the idea of putting yourself.
Someone wants to date.
In that and not within the universe that's created?
Maybe someone wants to be the fourth McElroy brother.
Maybe someone wants to date Matt Mercer and interrupt the game of Critical Role and like jump in and be like, Matt, please kiss me. I don't know. These are the only big... I listen to a lot of very small podcasts, so the only big podcasts I can think of that have, like, people in them at the moment that, like, people might know are My Brother and Me and Critical Role. And those are not... I'm like, what other big podcasts are there where people would try to ship people? I don't know. Don't tell me. I don't want to know, by the way.
The most... are Griffin McElroy / Travis McElroy.
No!
Oh, that's heinous.
Gross.
But there is no...
Gross.
I cannot find any original characters in the top list. It's surprising. Castiel / Dean Winchester is in the list, though.
Oh, not even the actor, but Dean Winchester himself. Like, not even what's his face.
Someone definitely wrote some crossover fic.
Good.
So, good news, everyone.
No one wants to date Griffin?
On Archive of Our Own, there is no self-insert.
No one wants to date the brothers?
Okay, who's gonna do the needful?
I will not.
The needful.
I'm gonna take us back to a whole summer.
I'm sorry. I don't know why this just spiraled out of control.
Oh, I'm sorry to whoever edits. I'm just all giggles this episode.
No, I always leave the giggles in. I think they're fun. I hope our listeners enjoy them as much as I do. It's like a built-in laugh. But it's real and genuine, and it's like unlike.
I just heard that. Izzy.
Unlike laugh tracks in shows that make me want to commit a violent murder.
But what if you were the only person in the crowd for the laugh track? Like it was a real crowd. And it's because you loved the character so much. I have been very rudely asked to shut the fuck up in cinemas because my laugh is so annoying. It is very annoying and loud, and I think a lot of things are funny that people would disagree with. But I look at a thing, I make a joke in my head, and I laugh out loud. I like your laugh. I don't know.
Well, people in cinemas in Belgium would disagree with you.
Yeah, bring us back.
I used to write Naruto fanfics. I've admitted this before. This is not new information. I did a series of fics, and if anyone could find my old fanfiction profile, it still exists. And they're still on there. Ooh. And these were self-insert fics. So how it started was a friend of mine went abroad for a while. I can freely admit this because we don't talk a lot anymore, and I don't think she listens to this podcast. If she does, hi, remember those awful fanfics I wrote about us? Because I wrote fanfics about us in the Naruto world. My friend had not read or seen Naruto, was not a fan of anime in general. I just used that as an excuse. Very funny things happened in this story. I lost my arm and got like a Full Metal Alchemist one in this instead. And then after that I was like, oh, actually, I really enjoy writing fan fiction. What if I do it without pulling a random friend in it with me who had nothing to do with it at all? And then I wrote a series of self-insert Naruto fics where they were like 1,000 words each. And I would just meet mostly villains of the story. I died in a couple of them as well. But it was mostly just me meeting a character and then doing a little character study of how would this character react to me. In one of them, I meet Itachi. That's the one that's always in my mind. And I don't die in that encounter.
Hell yeah.
Because I'd slipped in some mud and my hair happened to look like Sasuke Uchiha. And I was like, that's gotta be enough to survive an encounter with this messed up little boy. And then years later, I continued Naruto. I was like, I was correct. Itachi would not actually kill his brother.
That's so fucking funny.
Yeah, so I challenge you all to find my old fanfic account. It uses a name I no longer associate with, so I don't think it's all that easy to find.
Oh.
Did you do the Musketeers fanfic?
I wrote poetry for the BBC's series of the Musketeers.
And 9 of them?
Mm-hmm. How quickly did you find that?
Might want to edit this out. I don't know. Yeah, that took me about a minute.
Yeah, but I think I'm gonna edit it out because I want it to be... I'm gonna leave it in that you found it, but I'm not gonna tell people how you did it.
Yeah, you should be like...
Because I know it's doable. Like, it's definitely doable.
You want to see how many people can find it.
Also, I'm really good at Googling.
I do. I'm not, like, just for the record, I am not embarrassed for these stories. I had a lot of fun writing them. I had fun posting them. I had a great time with it. I think everyone should do some self-indulgent fanfic writing once in their life.
I have an old, like, fanfic.net account somewhere. I think it's, like, something I posted, like, over 10 years ago now is, like, on it or something. So it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, I could get rid of it and maybe I should, but, like, it's not like there's, like, it's not anything where it's like, oh, I'm like a teen writing porn. It's just like, oh, I'm having fun. So it's not incriminating, I guess. So I'm kind of like, whatever. If it was incriminating, maybe I would get rid of it. But I think the other one on there is maybe like way more embarrassing because instead of being a self-insert, it's a Hitalia fanfic, which is way more embarrassing. Like, being into Pokemon is cool. Being into Hitalia is not cool. Sorry. Like...
I mean, yeah, there's some embarrassing things. There's still some Harry Potter fics, I think, that I liked. And I definitely wrote, like, one poem for it. And we all know right now that Harry Potter is, like, the most cringe thing to say. That's not true, but like, I don't like it anymore.
Yeah.
Here's the ironic thing. I have written a fanfic.
Why?
Because I did it for a contest.
Oh. Interesting. I feel like maybe you've told me about this.
Have I? Yeah, I think I've told at least some of y'all about it. But yeah, I did a fanfic once for a contest, and it was a crossover between a high school alternate universe of Warhammer 40k.
Okay.
And Gilligan's Island.
I remember the Gilligan's Island part more than I remember the 40k part.
Uh-huh. It was 1 page long.
Great.
And I won the contest.
Was there any OCs in it?
Ooh, I'm so proud of
Did you make any original characters?
No.
Not even one to, like, die?
No, it was 1 page long.
Yeah, well, I don't know. 40k seems like a very violent fucking thing. So I was like, I don't know, maybe you had a character die off screen. It's fun, though. Now I just kind of, like, end up writing, like, either my own stuff, or I, like, have like an itch for like a while, write like a page, and then delete it. And I'm like, well, that was fine. That was, you know.
Yeah, but writing is really hard. It takes a lot out of you.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, absolutely.
Or I just like subject my friends to like fanfic type stuff in my tabletop games, like making them run into like Slenderman characters.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, you're one of the few people that's ever seen prose that I've written. For that same reason, tabletop games.
Yeah. That's your tabletop fanfic? No, I'm just kidding. It's different. It's completely different. I was just like...
Oh, I mean, one of those at least. Probably more, but at least one of those... No, at least 2 of those did follow a lot of fanfic-y tropes.
Yeah, because they're fun. Like, there's like a lot of them are silly and fun and stupid, but like there's a reason that there's a lot of like classic coffee shop AU. It's because it's fun. You're like, I want these characters that have been suffering their whole fucking lives be put into like a coffee shop for like 2 seconds. See what happens. Or you're like, oh, these characters I like that are from a very normal, like a show that doesn't have a lot of violence, I'm gonna put them in a zombie apocalypse. That happens too, you know, like people just, it's like playing with dolls. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you want to create your own dolls. You're like, wow, maybe I have a cool idea here. And maybe
what if these dolls interacted with this specific sort of doll and everything went to shit? Or everything went better, you know? Sometimes you do want things to be just happy.
And sometimes you just, like, instead of being like, oh, I'm going to ship myself with this character, you're going to be like, I'm the one who's going to pair these 2 together because they belong together and I can put myself in there.
Oh,
I feel like that's
to play
a thing.
The matchmaker.
Yeah.
Those are a lot of fun, too.
I feel like that's a thing I've seen.
I feel like... I'm going to say a weird thing now. I apologize. Okay. But do you think Sebastian from The Little Mermaid he was having the time of his life, right? Just matchmaking.
Yeah.
The Ariel and
Prince Eric.
The Prince Eric.
Uh-huh.
So when you said matchmaker, I was like, oh my god. Was Sebastian some writer's
Yes, absolutely. Uh-huh.
Like, oh my god, these bitches ain't communicating. I am not adding the miscommunication tack to this story that I'm writing. Sebastian is gonna fix
Someone at Disney was like, wow, I have this opportunity to write like a matchmaker in, and there's this little crab. He's gonna get involved.
Because thinking back on the original story, I can't remember a crap in there.
Yes.
The question is, was it John Musker or Ron Clements?
I don't know either of those names. That's the thing about me. I don't know famous people's names. And I'm happy for it.
Well, one of them created Sebastian. Or maybe the two of them together created Sebastian.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know them well enough to know which one was like, I'm going to make this dude into a matchmaker. I mean, there's a lot of things about Little Mermaid that's different than the original. Like, she doesn't turn into foam or whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
So, I feel like...
And she doesn't try to kill the prince, right?
Yeah.
Or does she do that? No, she doesn't do that.
No, she tries to save the prince from being killed, if anything.
Oh, that's good, I guess. That's wholesome.
Yeah.
Most of these stories aren't wholesome. Disney is technically like fan fiction as well, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
But they can get away with it because they're a big company.
Yeah, I think there's also a difference between adaptions and fanfic.
Yeah, for sure. There is. Like, if I'm like writing fanfic, I'm like, oh, these are from this game I really like, and I'm going to put, you know, these characters from this game I like together, instead of like, oh, I'm gonna put my own spin on this and make it into a short story after, like, based on a game I like. Like, yeah, there's a difference for sure. Like, and it's interesting to like think about the differences there. I think there's a lot of like, you know, there's a lot more room to make money off of things that are adaptions instead. You know, but
half the work is done for you already.
Yeah. But you also are like, oh, I have to make this unique though. You know, that's the thing. Or at least try to.
Now I'm also thinking about the fact that some stories exist because they were originally fan fiction and they got so popular that they got a book deal. And then they just changed the names. And I think if it's that easy, maybe it wasn't the actual characters from the show to begin.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. That's what I always wonder when people are like, oh, did you know 50 Shades of Grey is Twilight fanfic? And I'm like, okay, fine. But, like, were they actually, like, the same characters? But that's why I think it's interesting to have a jumping off point. Like, maybe that's not a great example. Maybe 50 Shades isn't a good example. But, like, if you're like...
But it's a famous example one, that everybody knows.
You're like, oh, I want to have this jumping off point. And I think that's, like, really valuable for a lot of people to have, like, oh, I'm having a hard time designing my own world. I love this media. Let me try to put a spin on it, whether it's me taking characters from the media and, like, changing them, or it's me putting new characters into the world and seeing how they interact. And then it's like, oh, okay, these ended up a lot different than I expected. Let me make it my own thing.
Yeah, it can be super daunting to start from scratch.
It is.
When you want to create. So I understand that for a lot of people, it can be easier to just borrow from something that already exists, like I do. I put my OC in media that already exists, and then I flesh them out there, and then I pluck them out of that universe, and I put them in mine, like they've incubated somewhere else, and when they grown up, they get to join my set.
And sometimes it's as simple as you find character hot, you want to make character kiss someone who's hot, and you made a hot character OC. And that's, like, fine, too.
I will say, the older I get, the more I sometimes look at characters and think, you need a decent parental figure. And I'm gonna make one up.
You're like, I don't...
Why are these children running around on their own? And then I make a big sister, a big brother, a parental figure, never an actual mom or dad, because those tend to die in media, and that's not the point of this one. So
yeah, just like an older mentor figure type deal.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be like character I want to kiss. It can be character I want to pet.
The older I get, the more I understand that Bilbo exists, because I also want older characters than most media gives me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Also in part because people no longer know what age means. People are like, you're either 20 years old or you're 60, and all the ages in between have sort of disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
And even 20 is kind of grouped in with teenagers because there's a lot of like weird nostalgia that makes people like end up feeling like they're stuck in the past. This is out of the purview of this episode. I'm sorry. I was just like, yeah I agree with you.
That's on me.
No.
I've just had
I'm being quiet about it this time.
a lot of days, a lot of weeks in which people have incorrectly assumed that I was not even in my 20s yet. Despite the fact that I look my age. I definitely look my age. People just don't know what my age looks like.
So true.
So yeah, the older I get, the more old my characters get. Because as a teen, I was definitely like, why would you put an old guy in your story? Because it's good. Teen Elvire, because it's a good idea.
Because I want to see a kick-ass grandpa.
Yeah.
And actually, you should join our Discord because we talked about putting older characters into things semi-recently.
I'm sorry, I've been reading
We
too
sure
much
did.
fanfic, so if you say it like that, I'm like, into what?
not just
What things are you
fanfics.
putting the older men?
Oh my.
I'm sorry, this suddenly became an E-rated podcast.
Someday we'll do check out this guy after dark.
Wait, what does E-rated mean for you? Because I'm thinking E for everyone.
E for explicit.
Yeah.
It's the sorry, I'm on the archive of our own tag.
E for everyone is games. E for explicit is fanfic. Because it does this weird thing.
I mean, the E of this one is for everyone.
That sounds dangerous.
Well, it tells you in the tag. It's not just like the letter E. It also says explicit.
Yeah, but it's true that I feel like a lot of people misunderstand how the tagging system
No.
works, and that's a story for a different time.
No, I'm just imagining like a teenager, like their parent checks up on them, and the teenager is like, "No, I'm just reading something. Don't worry, it's rated E."
Oh
No,
no!
what happens is the teenager does indeed go on the website, but doesn't understand that the tagging system is unique to this website, and then gets mad because they interact with stuff that they don't want to see because they don't take the time to read out how the tagging works. Like, a lot of people are tagging stuff
God.
that dove do not eat, which is a great tag to say all the horrible things that I'm listing in these tags are going to be explicitly mentioned in the fic. But what people are doing now is just putting dead dove do not eat and no other tags. And that's wrong, because then no one knows what it is. I have a lot of opinions. There's nothing wrong with that tag.
I was trying to lead into plugs, Quatre.
I'm so sorry. I have a lot of opinions about fandom.
Gosh.
And Archive of Our Own. I can cut this.
I'm so glad we
editor.
picked this episode topic.
I was like,
I'm having the time of my life over here.
I hope our listeners do too.
My God, because my ass gets so confused by the tagging system, so
ask me, I can explain it to you.
No, it's fine. I'm good. I'll figure it out. I'm an adult. I can handle it.
Yeah, let's slowly hit into plugs. I think I've embarrassed myself enough. I've now also tried to Google, and Izzy, did you find my fan fiction account or my Tumblr?
I found. Oh, I used to have the link to your Tumblr. That's how I knew how to spell the thing.
Yes. Because you can't find it that easily if you just Google it. So people who still know my old account will find it.
Yeah, this was AO3 account.
No, that's not the one I meant. That one doesn't have. That one doesn't have, as far as I know, my old.
This was all stuff from like 2020 that I was seeing.
Yeah, that one doesn't have the Naruto ones.
Ah.
So you'll have to do a bit more digging. But you're close. You're close. And when someone finds it, where would they let us know?
They'd let us know.
They found my old stories.
They'd let us know in the Discord, where is also, like, we talk about all kinds of stuff related and not related to OCs. We talk about, just all kinds of things. And sometimes we have streams, especially Mondays. We have Big Agu Monday, and where they watch Digimon Sabers. And then on Fridays, a lot of times there's like art streams that Emory is doing, or someone's playing a game. Sometimes I've seen Izzy play some games during the week. That's also the only place where you can find Izzy. Not to do your plug for you, but it's a little hard if I'm already talking about the Discord.
Oh, I'm over here just like making a peace sign, winking at the microphone, and yeah, my plugs are done.
I didn't know we could get Morg to do our plugs.
Do you want me to do yours? I don't know if I know how to say.
Do you want to try?
No. I'll do mine, though. Mine is at Haunting the Morg on Tumblr and Blue Sky, as well as, I don't think I'm on Archive of Our Own at Haunting the Morg. I think you might be able to, like, but it would be funny if I was, because that would be great. You can find me in most places at Haunting the Morg, except for co-host, which is Gengar. And then my other podcasts, 4430, a ReZero Watch podcast, and the Sonic Shuffle, a random and holistic Sonic lore podcast. Go for it, Quatre.
Yeah, hi. Why did I say hi? I'm so tired, actually. Hi, I'm Quatre. You can find me on... Where can you find me? I changed all my social medias. I changed my most important social medias to Quatre_cosplay. And my Tumblr is still mattfromcoughton.tumblr.com, which is my most active one. And I've reblogged a bunch of weird stuff on there, so you should follow me.
And you can find this podcast, other than I mentioned the Discord, you can find us at noisepace.xyz, where there's a ton of other podcasts where you can listen to that kick ass. I'm trying to think of what I've been listening to recently. Just a lot of Dr. Han, which is a Noisepace podcast.
Yes, same.
I was also listening to that.
I'm caught up on it now.
I'm like an episode behind, but that's because I was listening to other non-Noisepace podcasts, but fuck those guys. I'm not plugging them. I think that's... we have social media also. Check out this guy, .tumblr.com and co-host.org/check out this guy. You can find a co-host at check out this guy and then I think, how should we end this, folks? Rate fanfic every day. I don't know.
Be self-indulgent when you make an OC.
Oh.
Yeah.
I mean, if it was only 11 minutes later for me.
What?
I don't know what that means.
I'll explain it later.
In 11 minutes, I am so curious to find out.
It would be 4:21 for you.
Well, I said that before the clock ticked over.
Oh, okay.
That's unfair. It's midnight for me then. No, it's not midnight. It's 11.
Yeah. When you... Yeah. But you said write fanfic every day, which made me think of, smoke weed every day.
I'm sure someone's listening to this at 4:20, so happy weed minute.
Happy weed minute and happy sleep to Quatre.
Yeah, and it's always 5 o'clock somewhere.
So true.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.